Welcome back. You're watching The Capital Point, and of course the focus continues on the banking sector. As I had mentioned earlier on, Islamic banking is taking root in Kenya, has been here for just over 10 years. And with me in studio is Peter Makau, the CEO of Dubai Islamic Bank, which has just opened their 5th branch here in Nairobi, and is here to tell us a little bit about the space and of course the trends and the future of Islamic banking in Kenya. Mr. Makau, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I guess first things first, just tell us a little bit about Dubai Islamic Bank. I know you got into the market in 2017 with a branch in Nairobi and Mombasa to start with. Just tell us a little bit about how the journey has been and where you are today.
Okay. Thank you very much, Terryanne. We've had a good run in this market. We came into this market and started operations in June 2017. We've been in operation for the last slightly over 2 years. And during that period, we were actually consolidating our operations and making sure that we are very well equipped to meet our customers' needs. But now we are entering a second phase of our business development in Kenya, whereby we've actually triggered the expansion of our business in this market with a new branch that we are opening we've opened in Isili. And we've also opened another branch in Bondeni in Mombasa, which we shall be launching in another 2 weeks. But perhaps I'll take this opportunity to tell you a little bit more about DIB Bank. We are actually known as DIB Bank Kenya Limited. And DIB stands for Dubai Islamic Bank. So that is really who we are. We are 100% subsidiary of Dubai Islamic Bank, which is headquartered in the UAE. Our banking services are exclusively Sharia compliant. And we have 5 branches, as you've said. The initial branches which we started the business with, which was a branch at our Upper Hill head office. And we had another branch in Kilindini in Mombasa, and a 3rd branch in Westlands. And then to those initial 3 branches, you now add the 2 more branches that we've opened. Mm-hmm. We're very much committed to this market, and just look at us as long-term players in this market. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of course, the first curious question would be, you know, the name Dubai Bank is related to a bank that that was in receivership, probably still is in receivership. Perhaps just to clarify the difference between Dubai Bank and DIB Kenya.
Okay, let me put it this way, and I come across this quite often in the market, but there's a very clear distinction between DIB Bank Kenya Limited and Dubai Bank that was previously in the market. And I think the confusion in the market comes in because, as I said, DIB stands for Dubai Islamic Bank. So the common word there is Dubai.
And bank.
And bank.
Yeah.
But in between, there's a distinction. Mm. We are Dubai Islamic Bank.
So you're 100% Sharia compliant?
We are 100% Sharia compliant. And we actually are a bank that provides exclusively Sharia compliant banking services. The other bank that was in the market was called Dubai Bank. So I hope with this clarification, the viewers will actually be less confused by the 2 banks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and again, I would like to say that in terms of distinction, there's a big distinction as well. I mentioned that we are 100% subsidiary of Dubai Islamic Bank. Dubai Islamic Bank, just to say a little bit about Dubai Islamic Bank, the parent company, was actually the first bank, the first commercial bank to be set up in 1975. And over the last 40 years or so, they have distinguished themselves as being one of the premier Islamic banks globally. As a matter of fact, they are the 2nd largest Islamic bank globally. And Dubai Islamic Bank, which is headquartered in Dubai, is actually the largest Islamic bank in Dubai as well. So that is basically the profile of Dubai Islamic Bank that extends to DIB Bank
All right.
as a 100% subsidiary.
And of course, with such a heritage, we can only expect a lot in that's coming in store, which takes me to the next question about your strategy for this market. A lot has happened within the industry over the last couple of years, but this year alone we've seen mergers, we've seen acquisitions, and the question is there a place for a small bank in Kenya?
Okay, it's an interesting question, but I'll say the cake is big enough for all of us, and there's definitely space for banks like ourselves. Scale is important, but it's not the only critical success factor. We are doing quite well in this market, despite the fact that we just came into the market 2 years ago. Our growth statistics in terms of our financing book, where over the last 6 months, January to June, we grew by 62%. And we grew by 62% in a market that everybody says is actually stagnant. So really, to come back to your specific question, is there space? Yes, there is space. And what are the critical things in a market that has got as many banks as we have? The critical thing is actually to be able to know the market well, and we do know this market very well. Secondly, you need to be able to identify your space within the market. And we've identified the space within the market as a niche player in Sharia banking services. So we know our customers, we know the market, but more than that, most important is to be able to identify and meet the needs of your customers. It doesn't matter how big or how small you are. If you cannot identify and meet the needs of your customers, you've got no space in the market. Now, for us, we've identified our niche, which is basically Sharia banking services, and we know where our customers are, and that's why we've even opened up in Isili. And we know what they need, and we structure our banking services and products according to their needs. And then we put a bit of icing on it. We deliver it with a personal touch. And
customer-centric.
Yeah, we're customer-centric, and we aim to actually build long-term relationships. And
it's interesting you've mentioned that, because earlier on we spoke about some of the trends that were looked at as shaping banking between 2018 and 2019 from a global perspective. And one of the issues that Deloitte singled out was the customer-centric nature of banks, and that customers will be going for banks that actually focus on that. If we can just focus on the 62% growth that you've talked about. Of course, 2016, 2017 was quite a tumultuous year for the banking sector, which is when we saw growth for a number of the banks across all tiers actually dip because of the interest rate capping, and also part of it from the economy as a whole. Yet you grew by 62%. What would you say are some of the key drivers of that growth?
The key drivers really, it's like I said, it's first and foremost, you must be able to identify the customers or the market that resonates with your bank. And for us, we have actually identified that market. I don't want to go into a lot of details because I don't want to share the secrets with the market.
Your secrets.
But the point is, it also says a lot about how customers' needs are adequately met in the market.
And where they are.
Yeah, where they are. To the extent that we can actually come into the market and start registering this sort of growth rates, it says a lot about how the market has been meeting the needs of the customers. So it shows that there is a gap in the way banks are actually addressing customers' needs. So I think we've come in, we've been able to demonstrate to our customers that we understand what their needs are, and we've been able to deliver our services to meet their needs with a personal touch. And because of that, we're growing our business. Yeah.
I'm curious
and
about...
it sounds easier than done, but it's quite a bit of a science.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I'm curious about your thoughts as a thought leader and as a stakeholder in the space for quite a long time, in terms of the impact of the interest rate capping on on a bank like yours. And of course, I know that Sharia means that there's no interest pegged on a loan, for instance. But could there have been a flow into Islamic banking because of what was happening in the industry as a whole?
No, I think really the reason we've grown basically because of the things I've mentioned. It's not that simply because it's not related to the interest rate cap. It's not. It's basically how we've been able to demonstrate our capacity to meet customer needs in the market. Plus, of course, there is a benefit that comes when you're 100% subsidiary of a strong brand like DIB. The second largest Islamic bank in the world, the largest Islamic bank in Dubai. So for that reason, I wouldn't say it has anything to do with the interest rate cap. Yeah.
There has been misconceptions in the market for a long time about Islamic banking and thoughts that you have to be a Muslim to bank, in an Islamic bank. Perhaps you can just, talk to us a little bit about that for the benefit of our audience who might not know that, you don't have to be a Muslim to bank in a Muslim bank, as well as the benefits that your bank would offer over what a regular commercial bank would.
Yes, let me say that it's a bit disappointing that the share of Islamic banking business within the Kenyan banking sector is still very low. To be precise, I think it's about 1.47% of the, if you look at it in terms of the size of the
market share.
Yeah, market share from a financing perspective. So that's very low. That's really very low. And I believe that this is so low because for two reasons. For one, I think the public hasn't really very well understood Islamic banking. And there have also not been very many players offering Islamic banking in this market. But I would like to say that for us coming into this market, we're addressing some of this in the sense that we're coming in, we're providing an extra choice of a bank that can provide Islamic banking services. And we are a progressive bank. And to that extent, we then contribute to the entrenchment of Islamic banking within the Kenyan market. And really, it's not all about entrenchment. There are a lot of customers out there who need Islamic banking services, and they need to be given a choice. And that's why we found coming into the Kenyan market attractive for us. Yeah.
Where's the place of FinTech in the Sharia space? Over the last couple of years, we've seen, I think, above 40 FinTech companies set up in Kenya alone. FinTech is quickly and spontaneously growing across the Kenyan market. What's that space like within Sharia compliant banking?
Yes, Terryanne, before I answer that question, I just remember that I didn't answer your second question. You asked whether the Sharia banking services are only for Muslims.
Yes.
Let me clarify that Sharia banking services and the Sharia banking services that DIB Bank Kenya Limited provides, they're actually for all Kenyans. So you can actually access these banking services from whichever denomination you're coming from. However, the most important thing that people need to appreciate is that when we actually provide you with the banking services, we will actually provide the banking services in accordance with Sharia banking principles. So anybody today can actually access banking services from Sharia banks, yeah, and more so from DIB. So it's really not for one category of people. It is for all Kenyans.
Are there advantages in comparison to the normal commercial banks?
Yes, there are advantages. There are advantages because I'll just summarize and say that it's ethical banking. Yeah. So Sharia banking comes with all the benefits of what you'd consider ethical. So that's actually the key. That's how I would summarize them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's your plan for regional expansion or expansion within Kenya? I know you've said you're opening another branch soon, but we're now seeing the bigger banks looking at the region as to expand their footprint into those places. Are you seeing markets within East Africa or outside that you think are attractive for DIB?
Yes, and let me say that what the profile of Sharia banking that you see in Kenya is very similar to what you see for the whole East African region. There's a need to deepen and diversify banking, for Sharia banking to play a bigger role in the East African region, because the depth of Sharia banking in the neighboring countries is similar to what you see here in Kenya. Now, strategically for us, there's a big gap where we've started shop. Yeah. So our strategy is first to optimize on the business opportunities within our immediate market, which is Kenya. But we're keeping watch on the regional market as well. And I would like to say here that we would be interested and are interested in expanding our business, not only in Kenya, but within the region. But the priority at the moment is basically to optimize on the opportunity space in the Kenyan market, and then leverage on that and optimize on other business opportunities in the regional market. Yeah.
As we speak of opportunities and as we wind up, just tell us a little bit about what your growth outlook is in terms of Islamic banking within the market that you currently operate in, and then how that reflects to the bank. You said, 62% in the last 2 years. What do we expect?
Actually, not last 2 years, 62% in 6 months.
In 6 months?
Yes,
62. So do we expect double that maybe, because it's generally a better year for banking?
Well, I can only say that for us, in the third quarter, we have continued to grow our business. And when we publish our papers, our numbers for the third quarter, you'll see that. And we expect that the growth will continue into the fourth quarter. So really, the way I look at it and the way we see it is there's still growth opportunities in the market. And you earlier on asked about the growth rates relative to the interest rate cap. I think the thing is that really, if you really want to be very progressive, you've got to embrace change as it comes. And in today's world, the only constant thing is change. So when the marketplace changes and you have an interest rate cap, you don't close shop because you're a businessman. What you do, you adapt. And therefore, for me, I would say that with or without interest rate cap, we're going to continue growing.
Okay.
Yeah. And I expect the Kenyan economy to continue growing.
All right.
Yeah.
Perhaps my very last question, in the context of the big bank, small bank dichotomy, would you be looking at getting acquired?
Getting acquired? I wish the question was the other way.
Acquire. Would you be looking to acquire?
Well, I think highly unlikely that, yes, I'm aware that there's consolidation happening in the market. But at the same time, as I started in my opening remarks, there is actually room for all of us. And consolidation is good for the market. Okay, consolidation is good for the market because it strengthens the industry. However, for us, perhaps the opposite is what is more appropriate for us, in the sense that if there was a suitable business opportunity in the market that suits our strategy, that is aligned to our business objectives, we wouldn't mind making an acquisition.
Are you looking?
No comment.
All right, thank you so much for making time to be on Capital Point, and of course telling us a little bit more about DIB Bank Kenya, your outlook for Islamic banking, and we do wish you all the very best. Peter Makau, CEO, Managing Director of DIB bank. Thank you very much for making time to be on the Capital Point. Peter Makau, CEO and MD of Dubai Islamic Bank Kenya, DIB Kenya.